Jackson, and I'm going to be giving my informational speech on how to play the competitive card game Magic the Gathering. Basically, you play as a planeswalker, which is a powerful mage that draws the energy from the land in order to cast spells and use creatures to fight into battle. You are basically a magical commander of an army. You can control dragons, angels, goblins, so many different types of creatures imaginable. With a competitive mindset, you can play for fun with friends. It is basically a giant trading card game that has a lot of strategy involved. Similar games that come to mind are like Pokemon cards or Yu-Gi-Oh! It's the same concept, just a different type of story. So basically, in order to understand the game, you have to understand the different card types. Now, the most important cards that you will use are what's called mana, and that's how you cast spells. So if you look here, I have the 5 different types of mana that you can utilize to cast certain spells. So we have mountains, which is red. We have the swamp, which is black. We have the forest, which is green. We have the plains, which is white. And then the islands, which is blue. Now, I'm going to be very basic because, to be honest, Magic the Gathering is pretty complex and there's all different ways of playing the game, and it would just take too long to go into detail about everything. So I'm going to go over the basic card types. So we have sorceries, which you can only play on your turn. We have artifacts, which are different, which is a card type that just allows you to, cast extra mana, or some of them are equipments that aid in creatures. We have an instant, which is basically a type of spell that can be used on any turn to aid you as far as like if you're in danger of taking damage, or if you want to prevent an opponent from making a certain type of move, you would use an instant. But as long as you have the mana to do it, then you can cast it at any time. We also have an enchantment, which basically can give the creatures added abilities. It can give your opponents added abilities. So like if you want them to take damage whenever they play a creature, there's certain enchantments for that. There's literally an enchantment for everything. Then we have a basic creature card. So if you take a look at the top right here, you'll see that it requires 1 forest and 3 colorless mana. That basically means that you need a total of 4 mana in order to cast the card, but you have to have the correct amount of colored mana in order to cast the card. And then we have legendary creatures, which basically are, yeah, she's expensive, are basically they're tougher creatures, so they have better abilities than the basic creatures, and they're a little tougher to fight. They usually have higher toughness and defense. So if you see at the bottom, it would take 8 damage in order to kill her, which, I mean, you can't technically kill her because she is indestructible, which means she can't be damaged. And then we have the planeswalkers, which our characters are based off of. Now, these planeswalkers actually are in the lore of Magic the Gathering, and if you plan on playing the game, I highly recommend looking into the planeswalkers and their stories because they're actually really interesting to read. Magic the Gathering has books as well, strategy books and fictional story books. Now, I do want to explain that this is a turn-based game. So typically there's a various amount of ways you can choose who goes first. Some people do the fair way and roll dice. Whoever gets the higher number goes first. Some just decide, hey, I'll let you go first. Whatever you decide it is. Now, when you first summon a creature, they have what's called summoning sickness, so you can't play that creature until your next turn unless they have an ability called haste. Now, there's different abilities and certain times that you should use them. Now, how you win or lose the game is you have a total of 20 hit points. Some people use these spin down die, like I do. I have a bunch. Some people use paper and keep track of their life that way, because there are cards that will give you life as well as take life or when you take damage. So there's many different ways to play the game. It's really fun. Once you get the hang of it, it's fantastic. And if you're competitive like I am, you're always looking for different combos to put together that work well with your decks and how to quickly beat your opponent. So it's one of my favorite games, and I hope that if you do give it a chance that you'll learn to love it as much as I do. Thank you so much.